Hello, everyone. It is Sunday night, and we are live here at Bat City Comic Professionals, which means it must be time to wind down your weekend. As always, I am your host, Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here to talk to you about this week's indie and small press new releases. But as always, before we talk about comics, we have to talk about how we're winding down our weekend. And this week we have the Wedge, which is a cab sav, and it's supposed to be a mixture of raspberry and blueberries, which I'm kind of excited to see how that's going to come out. But this is, I love that the name, the Wedge, is apparently just referring to the place where like waves crash together. And so this one is like it talks about like California to South Africa. There's like these areas all across the world that two waves crash together and form like ultimate waves, and that's like what is known as the Wedge for surfers. And so they made this wine off of it. We're gonna see what it tastes like, if it's good. It is actually a South African wine. And so I'm really excited because I think we have maybe one South African wine ever with our friend Megan, that she had brought in, and so I've never like gone to the store and gotten one, so I'm kind of excited to see how this tastes. Matt, I've got some for you right here if you want to try it too. I thought that was going to be like way sweeter. I thought it was going to be just like a bowl of sugar.
It's very strong.
It's very strong. I can feel that like all the way down like my chest. I don't know that I can taste the blueberries. I wasn't sure if it was going to be like blueberry forward. It's kind of raspberry forward, which they do say that they're like ripe raspberries. And so I would imagine like that is going to be like the forward taste, but I expected it to like kind of like the blueberry to cut it somehow. I'm not really sure how I expected the blueberries to cut it. I don't know what blueberry and raspberries taste like together. But here we are. I will say the first drink, I was like, wow, that's like really, like I said, I could like feel it go all the way down like my chest. I don't feel like it's like going down like that hard after a couple of drinks. But it's definitely a very strong wine. I mean, it's 14% alcohol, so it's very strong wine. But it's very like the acidic level of it is also very high.
It'd be better with food.
It definitely needs food. It needs something to like cut its acidity level, I think. But it is, you know, I like the flavors. I like the raspberry flavor. Again, I'm waiting to see if like it's one of those like I catch like blueberries later on or something, but I'm really excited to see how this tastes with food at some point, and kind of just like keep going with like where this taste palette's gonna go, because it does, since it's all about like two things crashing together and like the atmospheric vibe of that. I'm kind of curious to see like if it's going to like as you go through the bottle you get a little bit more of something else. So it does say to enjoy the ride, so we're gonna try. I actually picked this one though because it is all about like people relaxing on a beach, and I felt like that was you know, a good wine to celebrate the inaugural year of SiestaCon yesterday down in Sarasota. You know, if you're from here, when you think siesta, you think, you know, Siesta Key and the number one beach in the continental United States. And so I was like, ooh, we're gonna have our beachy wine today to celebrate SiestaCon. And a huge shout out to our friends at the Dark Side Comics and Games down in Sarasota for putting on SiestaCon, for letting us participate in all the many ways that Brian let us be a part of it. It was a really fun year. There was so many of you there. You know, there was such a crowded convention. Like panel rooms were full the whole time. I just saw a picture of the gaming room for the first time today that somebody posted from. I like went in there in the morning before everything started, and I just saw a picture of how crowded it got at one point, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was insanely packed. It was so cool. There's always people out in like the outdoor workshops, even though it was so hot. And of course, just the convention floor was slammed. It was so cool. I got to run the panels, and, you know, just keep everybody on time. And I got to do some panels with some old friends and make some new friends. So it was, you know, a really cool time. Shout out to, you know, my creator friends, Max Fuchs and Dan Connor, who stepped in and like jumped on a panel with me when I was like, I need some comic creators, and they were like, that's us, we make comics. So shout out to them. And I got the honor of getting to moderate the panel for Anthony Bowling and Lenore Zahn, who is the voice of Rogue, and Anthony, who works on One Piece as the director of the English dubs, and also as some characters on there, as well as like My Hero and a bunch of other anime. It was super cool to get to be on that panel and moderate for them, and to just have that moment where Lenore recreated her audition as Rogue, and to watch everybody in the room like kind of cry a little bit for us getting to see that. It was amazing, and just to have everybody like have that moment where they're like, this is my childhood come to life in front of me, including Anthony, who was like, I became a voice actor because of X-Men 97 and Batman the Animated Series, so it's so cool to have you like in the present.
92.
Yes, X-Men 92. Yeah. Sorry, X-Men and the animated series.
Continuity editor right here.
Yeah, X-Men 92. Right. So it was really cool. It was cool to hear how they all work. Like I learned that they actually did the X-Men animated series in 92 was actually done as like all together in one room. They actually sat and did table readings, and then they would have the mics in front of them and just record it live in front of each other, which is kind of cool. It's not something you hear about a lot for voice acting, especially these days. So it was kind of nice to hear that they like all got to work in the room together when they made that original animated series. But again, congratulations to Brian, the Dark Side, and Siesta Khan for a great first year. And, you know, they said look for them to be back next year. So hopefully we'll see that. Thanks for everybody who came out, and we're going to drink this beachy wine in your honor for a great time. Coming up this week, we do have a couple of events, much more like normal process of events going on. This Wednesday is our Fresh Start book club, so that means we read the first issue of a comic just to get you excited about it, only to not read any more of it, but letting you do that on your own. And we are actually doing one that is only on issue 2 in the current like run of this book, but we are really excited about this. We are going to do Helen of Windhorn #1. If you haven't picked it up yet, you can come in on Wednesday, grab it. If you haven't read it yet and you want to come anyway, come to book club. It starts at 7, and we're going to talk about just this issue. And because it is an indie book without a previous series, you can jump in right here. And so even if you haven't read it yet, if you come to the book club and you kind of hear people talking about it, you'll get to see if it's going to be something for you. But we're going to be talking about the art, we're going to be talking about the story, and we're going to be talking about our predictions on where this is going to go. Because again, we're all only 2 issues in, even if you have read it. So nobody knows where this is going. And I'm excited to talk about that. I guess this was over here, so I have to begin later. And then this Saturday, May 18th, is at 11:30 in the morning. We have our free comic creation workshops for kids. We are going to only have one this month. Usually we have 2, and the reason why we only have one this Saturday is because this Saturday is also the launch of our summer program, our Slam Academy, which is all about story, lettering, art, and marketing. It is going to teach you every step you need to really hone your writing skills, your art skills, and then put it all together and actually like pitch that to places, whether that's publishers or bookstores or comic book stores or people at a convention, things like that. We're going to teach you all of those pieces of the puzzle. That is for our, kids and teens who already have a kind of an understanding of writing and art or art. It doesn't have to be both, because the classes do rotate between writing and art. So if it's something that you have a young person who's interested in it, these are going to be really advanced concepts brought down to a accessible level for people who are really trying to just build that toolkit of information. The first class, our Slam Academy, this weekend, May 18th, is actually going to be about character building, and it's going to be all the written format, because the week after we're going to have our character design and figure drawing class for the artist in you. But this is going to be all about writing. How do you build a character? How do you build a believable villain? How do you build relationships between characters? What else do you need from that? And so there is, on our Facebook page, there is an event link for it, and within that there is a Google form for you to sign up for that class. So sign up for that. If you want to sign up for every single class, You can do that as well. Just honestly, just reach out to us and let us know you're looking to sign up for all of the classes. And we'll get you set up for that. It's going to be 11 weeks, I think it is total in the end, with those last 2 classes kind of being an art history, comics as art history, and how to market your comic classes. So please join us. Check it out. There is an entire page on our website, badcity.org, that is dedicated to Slam Academy and gives you like a little bit of a detailed briefing of what kind of stuff you're going to learn in each class, so you can figure out which classes are right for you. But again, those are for kids and teens, to really just build that toolkit. So if you haven't looked into it yet, check it out, because it's going to be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait for those classes to start. Speaking of starting, we're going to start talking about some comic books right now. So to kick it off, we have I Hate Fairyland issue 14 from Image Comics, and this is just a part of our newest volume of I Hate Fairyland, which is the 6th volume, I think, at this point, of I Hate Fairyland. But if you don't know the story so far, I love that they do give you a recap. But basically, Gert was a young girl who got a ticket to go to Fairyland, where she was supposed to go on a magical adventure to discover a key that would lead her back to home after she made friends along the way. Well, Gert is not good at making friends, nor is she good at following instructions, and so she was trapped in Fairyland for a very long time. She is now back in a very weird, twisted way. And in this issue, we're just kind of seeing another adventure for Gert, where her and her, Jiminy Cricket kind of guide have opened up a pub, and he has brought in his cousin, who is known for his great sales skills, and she's like, he's there to help, and he's like, hey, I want to bring you on to help me all the time. And he's like, okay, as long as you don't have any monsters or anything. Well, not only does he have monsters, he has monsters that were caused by Gert in an earlier volume of the series that are Gertlins, which are essentially goblins made to look like Gerts, and they multiply very quickly, and Gert makes a terrible decision to let one go, and now the entire Fairyland is overrun with some Gertlins once again. And so honestly, they're just ridiculous fun antics of a kid gone wrong in Fairyland. So if you want something to laugh about, I Hate Fairyland's a great one. You don't necessarily have to get in all the way from the beginning, but the story does have an overarching theme that kind of goes through everything, so it's helpful. But if you just jump in, you're not going to be too lost, because most of them end up being like one-off or two-off stories. We've got The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, issue 9 from Dark Horse Comics and the Tiny Onion imprint, which you may know as James Tynion's publishing company. This is not written by James Tynion. It's mapped out by him, but it is written by Tate Bromble. And we are at a jumping in point. So if you've never read Oddly Pedestrian Life, this is a great time to jump in. This is the official start of the second arc of the story, and it is about a bunch of teenagers who are all basically aligned with the universal monsters. We've got werewolves, we've got vampires, we've got a girl who can speak to ghost cats. We've got all kinds of things like that, and our main character, Christopher Chaos, is kind of our Victor Frankenstein-esque character who feels unconnected to everybody except for this group of people. And in the first arc, they had a friend who was a werewolf who was attacked by a secret society of terrible people. And they were trying to stop it and put things right on the right path. And it didn't go so well. They've teamed up with a new partner who's kind of their leader. And now they are kind of trying to set themselves up with a monster club and a safe society. But Christopher has started having night terrors and visions that are leading him out to something he doesn't even know about. He's not aware that he's doing these things, and where that's going to take Christopher and where that's going to take all of us, we're going to find out as this unfolds. But if you're looking for some more young adult kind of age, like Universal Monsters, Christopher Chaos is definitely going to be the book for you. The Sacrificers, issue 8 from Image. This was one of my top books starting in 2023, and it has continued to just always be one of my favorites. This is one of those books that when it comes in, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a great week because Sacrificers is out. And this issue doesn't disappoint either. This is the story that essentially follows a young boy who's a pigeon who lives in a world where everybody has to sacrifice a member of their village or their family to the gods, and the gods, everybody thinks you're going to live and work in servitude to them, but in reality you're actually giving up your entire life, your soul and your essence to these gods so that they can stay young forever. Very much like the witches, like from Roald Dahl kind of situation. And this pigeon has figured out what is actually going on and has made a break for it and has tried to return home. And much like we've seen in all stories throughout time, you can't always return back to home, and especially when religion and politics come into play and you've got a role that somebody thinks you're supposed to be playing. And so he is now being labeled as a deserter and blamed for many chaoses that are happening, and how he's going to handle that and how he's going to fight back against his own people and against these gods. We're going to find out as the story continues. Transformers issue 8 from Image and the Skybound imprint and our Energon universe. We just got some really big reveals during their free comic book day of what's to come for the next wave of the Transformers G.I. Joe crossover universe. And we're starting to see some of that already come into play in this round of storytelling. If you haven't been reading Transformers, classic Transformers, in that the Autobots and Decepticons are at war with each other. They are on our planet, and of course some humans get connected to them. Now this human, though, is a young girl who is very feisty and very upset that the the Autobots are not just like destroying the Decepticons at all turns. And so in this issue she's kind of having to deal with the fact that they believe that as the good guys, it's not their responsibility to destroy and kill the bad guys, but maybe to just like subdue them. And she's like, well, that's not my philosophy, and if I'm going to go with y'all and I'm going to take out all these bad guys, and you need to deal with it because they've hurt a lot of people. And so she's not getting the responses that she's wanted. Meanwhile, the whole thing, usually we see the Transformers like immediately come back, everybody on both sides, but there's not a lot of the spark that they need and the Energon itself to like control them. And so both Autobots and Decepticons are struggling really hard with bringing their whole teams back to life, and the Decepticons are dealing with some upheaval between who is going to be in charge and what being in charge of the evil empire of Decepticons really looks like. This battle has taken a step away from the fighting. The last couple issues was just like a rock'em sock'em robots between literally robots. And they are like, now they're kind of stepping back, reassessing their path, reassessing where everybody is and the health and safety of everybody and what their plans are. And so we get a lot of personal growth from each character in this issue, including the bad guys, on where they're going to fall. And so if you are a Transformers fan, this is your time. Jump in and get started. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue 6 from IDW. This is the end of the all-star, super fantastic Beneath the Trees story, so I am going to limit what I show you as much as possible. But if you haven't read Beneath the Trees, this is the story of essentially like a Richard Scarry world of cute, adorable animals. And they have one of them inside of the town is essentially Dexter, but she doesn't kill in her town. She goes to other towns to kill, and she tries to keep it out of her town. And then one day it turns out that somebody else has started murdering people in the town, and they are framing her for all of the murders. And so now she has been investigating the last 6 issues who this person is, why they're framing her, what is going on, and now she is on the hunt for who it is and how she can stop them. And of course, being that this is issue 6, I'm only showing you pages from the very beginning because she is going to figure it out, and she is going to do what she can to deal with that situation. So if you haven't read it yet, it's wrapped up now, so it's a great time to just grab all 6 issues and read it. You're probably not going to find issue 1 in regular printing, but there are like 3rd and 4th prints of it that we might have still. I know we did last week. I don't know if we came out of Free Comic Book Day with any left, but we did, up until last week, have a couple of those extra printings. So you're just not getting a first print of issue 1 unless you want to pay like $60 to $80 for it from the internet, because that's how much they go for.
The inside's the same.
There's, yes,
First
the inside
print,
is the
fifth
same
print.
on all the printings.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. So if you just want to read it, doesn't matter which printing you get. The Devil That Wears My Face, issue 6 from Mad Cave. Woo! This is also the end. And I literally was talking about this book just today. This is such a wild ride. This is essentially The Exorcist meets The Count of Monte Cristo. And I'm going to show you this crazy wild page because it'll make you want to read this book. This is about an exorcism gone wrong. We have a man who's a priest, and he's trying to get an exorcist done, and he's doing a quite terrible job recently. And so he feels like this is his one chance to kind of correct those mistakes that he's been making. And in the process of trying to do this exorcism, he ends up letting himself get possessed by Legion, and his spirit goes into the man who was already possessed. And so essentially he has to Count of Monte Cristo his way back into society, trying to get to a place where he can approach the priesthood in the Vatican, because now Legion has taken his place and is slowly taking over all of the Vatican City and all of the Catholic Church, essentially. And so this man has come to fight and hopefully destroy the bad guys, and you kind of see how that plays out over the last 6 issues and wrapping up this one. It's fantastic. It's dark, it's creepy, and it's a dark, creepy action, though. So if you're moving along, you're very much getting, like I said, a Count of Monte Cristo story, but with that nice overlay of just like demon possession and creepiness. You should check it out if you're looking for something cool. And The Deviant, issue 5 from Image Comics. This is one of James Tynion's newest books that he is writing. And this is all about a guy who, we're seeing 2 sides of the story in this, honestly. We are seeing the story of a murderer who was known for, he like killed these 2 boys, or at least it's always been the assumption, based on other evidence in his house, and they were killed on Christmas, and all this dark stuff happened. And we're kind of following at the same time a man who is investigating that murder, and not for the reasons you would think. He's not trying to clear the guy's name. He's actually trying to write a comic book, and he's trying to write a story about his personal experience and his connection. And in this issue, we actually get to see that first moment in his life where he realized that he might be connected emotionally and mentally to this serial killer, and he's kind of piecing that together and what that means for him. And we're gonna see how this all comes back to connection as these 2 different stories keep kind of hitting. And I don't want to show you much more because this one does kind of have some big reveals towards what's been going on in the last 4 issues. So honestly, it's James Tynion. He's so great at building a world and building a story and getting you connected to the characters. And he's just gonna get you connected to someone who is really, really interested in serial killers, and we're gonna find out why. We've got Masterpiece from Dark Horse, issue 5. This is Brian Michael Bendis' newest story, and he kind of took all of his old stories to Dark Horse, and now he's kind of building out a little bit over there. But this is about Masterpiece, who is a teenage girl who finds out that essentially she was the child of 2 super spies, and she was trained to she was supposed to be trained to take over and to lead, and she's kind of like this kid genius. And because of finding out all this, she also found out that there is a whole conspiracy around who actually killed her parents and what happened to them. And so now she is going after the big bad guys herself, and she's been building her team of some adults, but mostly teenagers who seem to have all the skills. And so we're kind of getting that Ocean's 11 team build-up moment going on. But she is a teenager, and so even though she's a master strategist, she does kind of make some overly cocky mistakes. And in this issue, that finally comes to hit her in the face as she realizes that she may have overplayed her hand, and now she's going to have to go to some other people to get some help if she's going to make it make her mission actually work. Is that all a part of her strategy, or is it not? We're going to find out, because if you know anything about all those crime movies like Ocean's 11, you know that even when you think they messed up, it's kind of all like on purpose. So I'm waiting to see how she's like, I never messed up. This was all in my plan when we get to the end. But this has been one of my favorite Binda stories that we've had in a while. I'm going to take another drink of this wine. Again, I'm drinking the Wedge. Okay, see, now I'm like, I do kind of taste another fruit. Still don't know if I can tell that it's blueberry, but I can taste that there's something other than just raspberry in it now.
It's not as strong now either. The intensity's kind of backed off.
Yeah, now I don't know if it's because we've had a couple of drinks of it, or if it's because it's like aerated.
Right. It's had a chance to breathe.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel as strong, and it does feel like I can taste the other fruits. So this might be a wine that if you do get it, you may want to put it in like the aerator, or like leave it open for a while before you actually take a drink, because I'm tasting more flavors. It's not hitting as hard as it goes on. So maybe leave it open for a little bit. It is a screw top, so you could leave it open for a while and then close it back up, you know, keep it fresh. Dark Souls, the Willow King, issue 4 from Titan Comics. And this is the wrap up for this as well. This is a big wrap up week, honestly. We are hitting that end of the first 5 months of the year, so it's not surprising that we're going to see like new stuff launching in June. But this is an adaptation of a book series, and it is all about a world where we needed to have like this eternal flame that went through all the different kingdoms lit, and if we didn't, death would come and start attacking people, and like the world would just kind of be consumed by it. And one king has chosen not to keep his flame running, and so people have gone here, like our valiant knights essentially have gone to fight this king to make him put his flame back on, and we find out that he has no desire to do that, and he is ready to go to war, and our guys have to learn to stand up to him and kind of restore their own honor, because these are people who have been, you know, ousted from their roles and have always felt like they're the reason that the world was let down. But you know, whether or not they're going to be able to fix that and go with it, we're going to find out. And this is the end, like I said. So how that's going to play out and whether or not they're going to be able to stop death from consuming the world is a big one. It has very much a slight Sorrentino feel to the art. So it's cool because it brings in those monsters and that darkness like in really cool ways. What's up? Oh.
Did that say Cullen Bunn? Is that right?
No, it's Greg Mann.
Oh, Man. Not
yeah,
Bunn.
not Man. Yeah. 2 wins on Man,
yes.
So that's why you probably thought that.
Vowel.
Yeah. Happy Astronaut, issue 5 from Keenspot. I guess I got those two mixed up. Oh well. This is the wrap up for Happy Astronaut. If you haven't read it yet, is the story of a young kid who is an astronaut who has been going on this adventure for a long time with his little robot buddy. They don't get along very often. They weren't like, you know, the best of friends. And so I guess he's like half TV, like kind of robot. Anyway, they do not like each other, but they have finally worked out their issues. And then they made a new friend. That friend betrayed them. He's now on the team with like this jerk who literally like has poop powers. Cause this is definitely like for the young kids, but at the same time not. This is kind of a little bit of that like Dogman-esque humor for adults, not for children. And they have come to this world to stop the bad guys from destroying it, and it is a world full of stars that very much feel like the Sneetches from Dr. Seuss. And they are here to battle it out and to try to make everybody learn a big lesson before they walk away. But again, they have that the toilet humor, literally, as it were. And so you get a lot of big, funny jokes from that. And you're just like, are these guys going to figure it out? Where is it going to go? How are they going to be friends again? And also, why is this villain so ridiculous? These are the questions you ask yourself when you wrap up Happy Astronaut. We've got the One Hand, issue 4 from Image Comics. And this is Ron V's new murder mystery that teams up with the David Waters six-fingered man. And so in this is told from the detective side of the story, whereas Six-Fingered Man is from the killer side. And this is all about a detective who is on his day of retirement and finds out that his big case that he has actually technically solved twice already is suddenly now an open case again, because there has been a killing done in the exact same way. And he's like, this can't be. I've already found I've already had this happen once where I thought I caught the person, and then years later we found a copycat killer. This can't be happening again. So he's like, I'm not retiring. I'm going to solve this case. And so he has been working the case for the last 4 issues, but it has not been a clean, cut and dry kind of situation. And because of that, he has now been suspended and is not supposed to be working the case at all anymore. And in this issue, he decides, I don't care. It's my case. I want to make sure that nobody else dies. I'm taking this on. And so he is still solving the case off the record. And the things that he learns and discovers in this issue are very, very big pieces of the puzzle and are going to really tie into what's happening. In Six-Fingered Man, this issue picks up at the last 5 pages and overlaps. One page of this overlaps the last 5 pages of that story, which is kind of a cool way to do it. So if you aren't reading both, you're still going to get a complete story. I don't feel like you need to read both, but if you want a really rounded out story that's done in a really cool way where you're getting 2 different perspectives of a very, very big case, this is a really cool way that they're doing this. And so you should dive into both of them at the same time if you can. Night People, issue 3 from Oni Press. This is a crazy book that kind of just goes through different murderers, and different dark things that we see in our world. And in this one, I'm going to look at the time period really fast, sorry. It is, does it say what year it's supposed to be? Maybe not. Okay, it's an undetermined time. And a man goes into a bar, and when he gets into the bar, he's having a conversation with the bartender. Somebody comes in, and she doesn't like what they have to say, so she pulls a gun on them. And something happens. Everybody seems to kind of black out, and he wakes up in his car with a gun in it, and he doesn't know if he's the one that killed the people or if he wrestled the gun away from somebody. No idea what actually happened, but he is on the run now, and we kind of see this guy who's always been the easy, I go with the flow kind of guy suddenly panicking that maybe he's not a good person, and maybe he has these dark feelings inside of him. And he ends up getting on a bus in the last couple of pages. He ends up getting on a bus and meeting a young girl, and she tells us all about who she is and everything about her family life and everything, and kind of introduces us to this other character who might be a part of his story. And I'm not going to really tell you much more about it because, again, this kind of is an anthology, but it's all kind of connected between each other and different things. And so it's really cool to see how this is playing out. This is done by, the concept is by Barry Gifford, who did Wild at Heart and who wrote with David Lynch on Lost Highway. But it's actually written in comic format by Chris Condon, who did that Texas Blood. So it's kind of a really cool powerhouse of mind-bending people. We've got Little Black Book, issue 3 from AWA. This is the story of a guy and his wife who aren't not so well on their feet, and they find out that she's having a baby, and they're trying to figure out how they're gonna live their lives and make it, because they're very beneath the poverty line kind of situation. And a man shows up and is like, hey, guess what, your father passed away, you now get his house. And he's like, I don't know my dad, I don't want anything. And she's like, we want the house, we'll take it. Well, when they get into the house, they find out that the dad had a little black book, which is filled with favors that were given and favors that would need to be owed, and the names of people that you could call when you were in one of those situations where you just are making trouble and you need to deal with it, because apparently his dad was involved in all of those kinds of shady crime situations. Maybe it was a cleaner, maybe it was somebody who needed a cleaner. don't really know. But in issue 1, the wife hits a woman with her car and doesn't know how to deal with it. And so the couple ends up calling in some favors off of this little black book, not knowing anything about it, now only to find themselves wrapped up in a whole scandal of crime and punishment that they did not need to be involved in. And the only way out maybe to go through it. And we're going to see where that leads them as this family deals with a lot of issues.
I think I read that one.
You read issue 2.
Right.
And you were like, that was really good. And I was like, did you read issue 1? And you were like, no, but issue 2 was really good.
Yeah, you can jump in on issue 2, everybody.
Yeah, it was good enough that Matt put it all together. So they're doing a really good job of like recapping enough of the pieces of the puzzle as they go along. Like in every issue, like they even recaps like how they ended up like why they ended up calling somebody in the first place. Like, so it's like if you didn't read issue 1 or 2, like issue 3 explains 1 and 2 all over again.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a car accident.
Yeah, exactly, because you didn't read issue 1.
Right.
It's the whole point of issue 1. We've got The Last Mermaid, issue 3 from Image Comics. This is like watching a movie unfold in comic format, but this is literally about The Last Mermaid. We are in a world where the world is dried up. We have destroyed the oceans. There's not much water left on it. And so our young mermaid has built a mech suit so that she can walk the earth and try to find new fresh water so that she can survive. And her best friend, who is an axolotl, have been traveling over and over again. And in the very first issue, the toxicity of her water has gotten to an all-time high, and so she figures she has to find something. And they managed to find what seems like a perfect oasis for them to dive into, quite literally, only to find out that it is not something that was as perfect and wonderful as they thought it was going to be. And there are monsters that lie beneath this, and now she is fighting for her life and the life of her dear friend in order to survive. This is one of those books that I have had people of all ages pick up. It is done by a storyboard artist, which is kind of cool because you can see that he is very much storyboarding this out. And so it is cinematic. It feels like watching animation cells just kind of tick through as you're reading it. And again, it's something that all ages have gotten into because of that, because it's not something that you need to, you can just jump in even if you don't know how to read. And again, there's a mermaid and an axolotl, so a lot of people are really loving it. But check it out if you haven't read it. Don't check it out from us because I don't have issues 1 and 2 anymore. But I might be able to order them if you need them. So if you need to jump in, I will try to help you find it. We've got Gone, issue 3 from Distillery. This is Jock's book at Distillery. It had a teaser in the Devil's Cut, and this is the finale of that because all Distillery books so far have been 3 issues. This is the story of a young girl who is trying to help her village and her mom, specifically because her mom is pregnant and she wants to make sure she's taken care of. So she tries to constantly steal stuff off of ships that come in from the capital that have the food and supplies on them. And one day she ends up teaming up with a bunch of people who are like, hey, we're going to go a little harder on this one. If you want to come with us, you're going to, we'll get more supplies. It'll be great. And so she ends up jumping onto the ship with them, only to find herself stuck on the ship when it takes off and stuck in space for a very long period of time. And she is having to try to figure out how to get back from space at this point. And deal with all the people that she's going up against. And so in the last issue, she got some big reveals about the situation at home and the situation that she's been living through, but also a giant pink mist that has infected people and is causing everything on the ship to kind of crumble around her, has taken over everybody. And so she is trying to make it through this mist. She's trying to make it through these bad guys. She's trying to make it home to her mom. And whether or not she's going to do that is what you're going to find out in this epic finale to Gone. We've got Quested issue 3 up next from Massive. This is volume 2 of this. kind of could jump in, honestly, and this is really good for, I think you can definitely jump in on the last 2 issues anyway. This is for fans of I Hate Fairyland. I think you would really like this book. And in volume 1, we followed a guy who was known as like an epic quester, and he had been doing, all these quests his whole life. He was just known, like, supposed to be the guy that did the questing and was always a leader. Well, he's gone missing as far as they know, and so one of the members of his team has now taken over the team, and in this issue she has her first in the last issue she had her first quest, and it didn't really go well, and so she doesn't want to do another one ever again. But Detective Kaiju was like, yo, you've got to go on another quest, you've got to do this, you're the only one that can, but stop trying to quest like the people before you and start trying to quest like you. And so she goes on her own mission in this one, where she actually leads the party in her own way. And it doesn't necessarily go the way she wants it to, but it doesn't necessarily go near as poorly. And so we have a really big character growth moment from her as she actually is trying to figure out like who she wants to be as a leader. And we're going to see that continue in the next issue. Washed in the Blood, issue 2, also from Massive. This is a crazy, crazy, crazy book. I'm going to start it there. This is told from 2 different points of view. One is from a young kid who was raised in a cult, who was told that he is essentially supposed to be the new Messiah. And he has been raised that way his whole life, and he was told that someday that they would all kill themselves and they would be raised again, and he would be the Messiah of these people. It also has the narration and of, I guess, voiceover in his head, but also we see the story of the God who led his people to believe that. And so we find out that essentially there's this pantheon of God, like alien type creatures, who love to mess with humanity. And so in issue 1, they're like, hey, we've got to find something for humans to believe in. Like, we need to give these people a new God so that they can start a cult, so that they'll worship us. What will they worship? What can we give them? And they decide on what they want them to worship, and that is what this cult is formatted on. And the young kid cult, who is named for the thing that they worship, is like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to kill myself. I didn't sign up to be a Messiah. And so in issue 2, it's him dealing with the fallout of that, and meeting other people for the first time, and finding out that like everybody has something that they worship, and that these people are all like manipulating him. And at the same time, he's like, if you want me to be your God, I'm going to be God, and you'll have to listen to everything I say, and is trying to like restructure the world to actually find people who will be better people and be better leaders. It's absolutely it's a slow, like, you need to read it slowly. There's so much in Washed in the Blood that if you try to like power through it, you're like, what just happened? I totally and completely missed that. And so you have to kind of take your time with it and see like, okay, what did they say, and like what was the thought that behind everything, because there's it's so easy to get lost really quickly, you know. We've got Dead Weights, issue 2 from Ahoy Comics. This is what happens when a supervillain decides that he doesn't want a villain anymore, and he takes his best friend with him. They are subpar villains, to say the least, just not the strongest members of the villain force team. And so one of them is like, I quit, I don't want to do this anymore. And the villains are like, great, we were going to fire y'all anyway, you're awful. And in issue 1, they tried to actually do the right thing and, you know, take a superhero-esque path and help people. And they were met by these people who were like, well, if you're going to be heroes, then you need to go through our training course. You need to figure out how to do things our way. This is the way it's going to be. And so now they're in this essentially like secret society on like another planet kind of thing, trying to figure out if they qualify to even train to be heroes with this training academy. And it is not going well. They have to face some trials and tribulations just to see if they can be admitted into the program. And these guys, they just don't do things the right way, and they don't deal with things properly, and they have no control over their poor decision-making skills, it seems, at all. Typical Ahoy level of thought process and satire. But if these guys are going to make it out and make it in, we're going to find out. Geiger, issue 2 from Image. This is your new Geiger. It does still connect to the Geiger that came out in like 2020, but we're kind of giving you all of that information all over again in like almost a requel way now that Ghost Machine has its own imprint. But Geiger is the glowing man. He is a man who had cancer and was going to die and wanted to get treated for it, and in the process of doing so ended up essentially becoming this radioactive man, found out that all of his family was killed and has become a vigilante of sorts, and is really on his way to mostly try to figure out how to find a cure so that he can go back to living his life as a regular person and not dealing with this anymore. In this volume, he has met a man who is determined to help him. He's like, I know of a story of a man who had the same issue as you and now he's cured. I can help you, but you have to let me work with you because I've been a bad guy my whole life and I want to atone for my sins and I want to be a better person. And he's not very good at anything, but they let him tag along. Geiger is letting him tag along anyway, even though he hates it. And they are come to a town that says they know the man and where he's gone that has healed himself, and they will trade that information if Geiger stops a person who has been robbing the town of all of these things. And if he can defeat this thief, they will give him the information. And so this is that journey of Geiger trying to find that thief and destroy that. Monsters Are My Business, issue 2 from Dark Horse. This one is by Cullen Bunn. This is all about a guy who has a awesome sidekick who is a koala with a chainsaw, and they fight against giant monsters. And in issue, like, they're basically bounty hunter, mercenary kind of people who take these calls to destroy monsters. And in issue 1, a guy who he absolutely loathes, who is from used to be a friend and is now like high up in corporate world and is a trash human, comes and is like, hey, I've got a job for you. I need you to do this, like retrieve this monstrous person essentially from a place where, he's being held captive by these bad guys. We need you to go in and do it. And in the process, he finds out that everybody's a liar. And while there is a creature that needs to be protected, of course, corporate greed is a bad thing. And now they are finding themselves in hot water that they shouldn't be in, as he knew would happen when he signed the agreement in an attempt to get money and get out of the situation in the first place. And so it's a ragtag team. It kind of has almost a Guardians of the Galaxy-esque feel where, like, nobody really goes together on this team. They all have weird, unique powers. But again, koala with a chainsaw. It's kind of the most adorably hilarious thing. Morning Star, issue 2 from Mad Cave. This is that creepy slow burn book that you're like, something is going to happen that is going to be awful, and I don't know what it is. And I turn every page and I just keep waiting for it to happen. Very autumnal-esque in that feel. But this is about a family who the dad was like, he's like a forest fighter. A forest firefighter. Thank you. He is, and has been in the military and different things before. And so he's gone, and he was out and was supposed to be out in these woods, like putting this fire out. Never came back. They keep thinking that he's going to come back. So the mom and the daughter and the son, who all need to just like say goodbye to him, have gone out into the middle of nowhere where he was, known to go, and where they've gone camping and things before, and where he may have very well disappeared. And they're staying out in one of those like ranger towers that hasn't been used in forever. And the little girl's kind of like on top of things, like really good at everything. One of those like sharpshooting, like good kid, always gets it all right. And the little boy is lost in his own imagination and is always seeing all of these like strange worlds that may or may not exist. We don't know yet if these creatures and things that he sees exist or if it's just in his mind. But in this issue, when they have finally come to the point where they are like, okay, we're going to say goodbye and we're going to have our moments, they wake up in the morning and the son is missing and nobody knows what happened to him and where he's gone, and no park rangers are answering, and there's nothing around for hundreds of miles, and there's only like there's no way out. I love, literally, it's like no electricity, no telephones, no transportation, no escape. And we get this little teaser here on the back of something like that looks so like normal on the front, but then this is your back image. And you're like, when is this stuff happening? Like, I think every page is going to be like where weird, creepy stuff comes out of the woods, and like it's going to hit the fan in this issue. And now we're 2 issues in, and I'm like, we're just building something, and I want to know what it's going to be. And I love the characters already, and I can't wait. And Mad Cave's crushing it. All right, we got some number ones. We've got The Armory Wars, Good Apollo, I'm Burning, Star 4. From issue 1, but it is technically volume 2, issue 1, and this is from Claudio Sanchez from Coheed and Cambria.
And they're doing Good Apollo now.
And they're doing Good Apollo.
Because they did the other one first.
What was the other one?
The album before.
The album
Good
before.
Apollo, I'm Burning, Star 4 is the 4th album.
There you go. The 4th album.
Third album before, yeah.
All right. See, this is when I have my music master to tell me. Honestly, at this point, 1 issue in, I think you probably do need to read The Armory Wars before you jump into this. Like, you need to read volume 1, because I had enough, like, there was parts of it where I was like, I can kind of tell what is happening here, but at the same time, like, all of the character development and connections are like, hey, we already established these, so you're jumping back in. It's like, oh, so-and-so would want you to feel this way, and I'm like, that person doesn't exist. Who is that person? So you kind of need to know what happened in volume 1 to really get it. But if you don't know, you can kind of see that we are in a world where essentially of gods and monsters and dangerous creatures, and we've got characters who who thought that they had killed entities that were dark and creepy and coming for them, only to find out that like other people are like, no, that happened over here, and oh, this is going on, and oh, you know, like wars that were supposed to happen kind of got halted because mysterious deaths and things like that. And so you do need to know, I guess, what happened in the Armory Wars. I kind of feel like I just read A New Hope as a comic book, essentially, where I was like, oh, there was a giant war and something happened, and I don't know who all of you are and how you're connected, and I just jumped on issue, like, you know, volume 4 of a story kind of thing, without having read the Armory Wars. Like, I kind of feel like
it is volume 2 of Good Apollo and Burning Star 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably the
like 7th volume overall,
right?
Or something.
7th volume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. That the name has a number in itself, and then there's another.
And
number.
then there's another number in it. So yeah, it's been quite a while too since these came out. So I don't actually even know, but I know that there was a lot. I think he had them at Comics Pro, and I think there was 5 or 6 volumes maybe that he had on the table with him. So it has been going for a while, and I believe Boom did put them all back in print, though, I think. Or we're talking about possibly putting them all back in print. Well, they had them at Comics Pro, so I think that they at least are hopefully going to put them back in print, because, yeah.
We get a lot of people asking in shop for them.
We should look it up and see if they're back,
yeah.
Because I know that they had, he had some of the volumes with him. Maybe we'll look into it and see, because yeah, you definitely, I feel like I said, I feel like what people probably felt that weren't aware of what was going on in Star Wars for the first time, that were like, but it doesn't make sense, like they keep talking about this war and there's no war and I don't know what war they're talking about. Like, it kind of felt like that. It was like, oh, and like, it's like if they never established the Empire in Star Wars, like when you watched A New Hope, if they didn't ever show the Empire, and they kept saying, like, oh, well, the bad guys were coming for us, and we had that massive war, but then, like, this one soldier, like, went out and, like, killed these people and did this, and, like, you're like, I think I'm supposed to know what that is, and maybe it'll unfold later on, like, in more exposition, but I still don't really know who you are and why you're connected and this and that, so you gotta read the rest. It sounds like it's very good, though. If you read it, it seems like it has really great world building, because I was already like, I could put piece of it together and kind of push stuff around and kind of figure out what was going on, but I was like, I don't really know who's who or where we are. But yeah. Things I do understand. Betty and Veronica, friends forever. This is the fairy tale. We get one of these every month from an Archie character that just gives us fun and exciting things. And so our very first fairy tale in here is all about a girl who considers herself to be the ugly duckling and the outcast who moves to Riverdale and needs a home. And they start learning how to build homes together, and then they all kind of build a really cute community. And then we've got the story of Goldilocks, which is Betty, and she is going to try everyone's porridge and realize that it's not bearable for her. So you would say. And then there is a big one that is called What's the Story? And basically they all go to this like theme park in the park that used to exist, and they're like, oh, I always wanted to open this storybook and see what was inside. And when they open the storybook, it turns out it's filled with these magical waters, and Archie releases them because he doesn't close the book and ends up waking up inside of a fairy tale world. And Archie is told that he has to find true love in order to break the curse so that they can restore everything. So of course, Archie being Archie decides that means he must go around and kiss every girl in the entire fairy tale world until he figures out which one is his true love. And thankfully, Archie learns some lessons. So, but if you're looking for just a fun time, these are always great to pick up. They are just anthologies of new and old Archie stories to get you excited about it. Faith has returned to the Valiant universe in Alien books, and I'm very excited to see this. I love Faith. She's such a cool character. And in the last thing that happened with Faith, which they highly explain to you, so if you're, I feel like I look like Wilson from Home Improvement when I put this right in front of me. They do explain a lot to you of what happened. They do a really great job with exposition, but Faith had been fighting the Fearless, and she ended up, they disappeared, something happened to them, and everybody assumed that she killed them. And so Faith was branded a murderer and was a criminal, and they made her go into hiding because they're like, we know you're a superhero, we know you didn't do this, but you need to lay low, stay out of sight, we can't let anybody know. So she's been working like a regular 9-to-5 job, wearing wigs every day, taking on a character that is not suspicious. Well, they have come to her, the government has now come to her and said, hey, we need your help, we want to bring you in, we want to put you on the team. And she's like, you can't do that because I'm a murderer and nobody's going to trust you, nobody's going to trust me, they think that I've done all this wrong. And so she's like, I'll come work with you if you give me the tools I need to clear my name. And so this is the start of Faith going on a mission to clear her name and figure out what happened to these faithless, I think said fearless earlier, but the faithless that have been her enemies before, and see if she can figure out where they went and what's going on, and try to restore that so that she can restore herself as a hero. And it's her first time being exposed to the real world since all that happened, and so she's starting to see a lot of really hateful things coming out of her way. We've got Horror and Fantasy Illustrated from Zenescope. This is a one-shot from them. They've been doing these little horror like one-shots recently that are completely different from most things that Zenescope puts out. And so this is a new one. It's called Plum Island, and it is one story. The last couple have been like multiple stories, but this one is all about a guy who is a scientist, and he's in a research facility on an island, and he's had this woman who they've been using her for years. I'll show you this. But they've been using her for years. On this side, you can see where she arrived. She was like this monster, and they realized like, oh, maybe, of course, they could use her as a weapon, or maybe they could use her for healing. Well, he's been using her for decades to get research and stuff from her, only to find out that nothing ever turned into anything for them. And so now the government is shutting it down, and they tell him he needs to burn the building with her in it because they don't want her getting out because of like the evilness that she had. And he's like, no, she's reformed. She's a good person now. She'd never do anything to hurt us. And of course, he falls for all of that because he's stupid. And he lets her out, and she begins to wreak havoc on everyone. I love it because it's actually she is a nymph of nature, and she talks, the whole thing that runs through it is a story about how as humanity, we think that we're at the top of evolution. We think that we've come in and we're like the ultimate height of what anything could be that ever comes on earth. But at the end of the day, we are all just a part of nature, and nature will always be stronger than all of us and will defeat us and destroy us if it needs to, in order to keep itself safe. And I love the way that they use that through this story. This is 48 pages. It's like a huge, like, oversized issue of the full story. And so if you're just looking for kind of a good horror that's a quick one shot, that's kind of horror action, this is going to be a good one for you. Valiant has launched The Valiants, which is issue 1 from Alien Books and Valiant. If you didn't know, let's start there. Valiant went away for a hot minute, and everybody was like, oh my god, is Valiant gone? Are they never coming back? Well, they are now being distributed and published by Alien Books. So it is the same thing. If you are a fan of Valiant, all of your titles that you love are coming back through this new Alien Books, and it will have the Valiant logo on it. And they're finishing up the Exo Man of War that Becky Cloonan and Becky and Michael were working on, and with Liam Sharp on art. So they're finishing that, but they're also bringing us all new books like The Return of Faith. And in this one, we are having what is called The Valiants, which is the launch of a team universe for all your Valiant characters like Ninjak, Jamie Capshaw, Eternal Warrior, Livewire, Bloodshot, Exo Man of War. They're all going to be making appearances at some point in this story. And this is them kind of building their space in this issue, like them coming together as a team. We see how each of those characters I mentioned starts to be called in to be a part of things, and in this one, we see Eternal Warrior, we see Guardian of the Earth, we see Ninjak, and we're kind of talking about, like, maybe Livewire is responsible for some power damage that's going on and how we need to get to her and bring her in. But Capshaw has come in and is like, we need to figure out a place to build a base that we can all work together and build out this team that we're going to have. And so this is really just them building a headquarters and figuring out that, hey, we need to have a team. And it's Alien Books' way of bringing you all your Valiant characters back. So if you're a fan of Valiant, this is going to be your connecting piece of the universe to bring all your favorite characters back. I'm not going to show too much of this because I know he hasn't read it yet, but Turtles Black, White, and Green #1 is out this week from IDW.
You have a copy?
I had a copy just for you. Wow. And so it has been right on top upstairs, and we've been so busy you didn't even get to see it. So, Black, White, and Green, this is going to be our issue 1, and this is our anthology for the Ninja Turtles, much like the Black, White, and Blood, or Black, White, and Red series we've seen from DC and Marvel. We are going to get 4 stories in each issue, each celebrating a different turtle. The first one in this one is Donatello's story, where he learns that maybe spending so much time stressing about all the things he needs to do to make sure everybody else on the team is successful isn't the best way to be a part of a team. Because sometimes his brothers need him to actually, like, just be there and be out there with them. And maybe sometimes he just needs to enjoy some pizza. And then we've got Leonardo's story where he gets sucked back in time, which is such a common thing for Leonardo, to become a great swordsmaster in the past and figure out whether or not, that's where he needs to be or wants to be. And then we get Raphael's story about being angry. I'm just gonna I could just leave that at that. That's Raphael having to deal with the fact that being a grumpy Gus isn't necessarily the best thing for him to be all the time. And then the last story is our Michelangelo story, and it is ridiculous in all things and all ways, because Michelangelo thinks that Donatello has invented snot, and can't figure out why his like new formula is so gross and green and snotty, and he ends up creating some funny things out of what Donatello has. But I'm going to give that to Matt right there. There you go.
They're like $80 on eBay.
Are they really?
Uh-huh. It's the highest selling black, white, and anything book.
Wow.
Of all time.
That's crazy.
Sold out everywhere.
That's insane.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean,
People
we did.
coming in the last 2 days. Hey, do you have it? No, sorry. What? You don't have it?
Yeah, I saved that copy for you just to read, because you were subscribed to it. You're subscribed to all things Ninja Turtles, so I put it in your box when your box just happened to be the one that I read, because we sold out of it otherwise.
Great.
All right, we've got Missing Number, which is a new little graphic novel from Strangers Publishing, and this is read kind of in the same way that manga is read. So when I open this up, you're going to see that it actually opens the opposite way, which is going to be a crazy thing to show you. But this is just kind of about two people who I guess are detectives, which I actually learned from reading the blurb at the back. And they go on... One of them talks about going on a date, but in which you kind of see some of the date down here and the things that they're doing. And then it's just kind of almost anthology vignette type, but yet blended together of them going through and doing these day-to-day things like this date and these investigations and things. It is all almost, I would say it's at least 95% art-based, so you're kind of just building your own story almost out of what they're doing, even though there is an interworking of what is happening. But
the art's incredible.
I was just going to say, it's incredible art. I'm trying to find, like, the best, like, pages, but I'm like, they're all so good. This art is fantastic. I want to see Valentin de la Casas do a manga. Like, I would love to see what, like, a full book of art from them on it, because this is just, it's so freaking fantastic. But yeah, it actually says, like, get your magnifying glass to investigate the present as a missing number, find beauty and true meaning in every ephemeral connection between encounters and farewells and the lights of life of light and shadows. And so that's why I'm like, you can kind of build, like, they almost want you to build a story of your own out of it, because the whole thing is about seeing the moments in your own life and in reality, and like just to kind of like take that time and pause. And I love that this art makes you do that. This art is like, you have to pause and look at each moment and see what it is. And that's the missing number, the thing that we're not seeing when we're too busy and not looking. And it's a beautiful story. We've got Dungeon Mage issue 1 from also from Strangers Publishing. This is a gigantic book you can see next to my head. It's very tall. And so it's like Treasury edition size almost. But this is, it's very classic, like zine detailed drawing. So, and hand-done lettering. So it's really cool. But this is all about a guy who is like your epic warrior who is imprisoned. And they are like, if he gets out, he's, it's going to be the end for all of us. And of course, they're like, we need him, though. We need him to be on our team. And he's like the good guy. Like, they're the bad guys. And so they bring him out, and he's kind of returning to this full power, or he gets out, I guess I should say. And it's so funny because they're like, he's riding a worm. And you're like, is he really? They're like, there's no way he's really riding a worm. And then it's like, nope, he's really riding this worm. But look at this. Another one where I just like have to show you all this like detailed art, like this cross hatching and everything that they do on this gigantic thing. Like, this is something that I'm like, if you told me this whole thing was drawn in ballpoint pen, I would believe you. And it's so cool to see. Sword and sorcery for sure. They even make like a DM joke, like if you like, he's like, I think I'm gonna call you the DM, and like you're like the dungeon master, and of course it's the dungeon mage, but they're like, dungeon mage, DM, it's like you could tell us a great story and like control where we go. And so fantastic, artwork, and just, again, if you're a Sword and Sorcery fan, you need to jump in for that.
Sorry, everything's glitching on my end.
That computer is
RAM,
dead.
There's a whole bunch of...
Yeah, that computer just decides that it can't hold the memory of playing any, like, having a website even open. I can't even check email on that computer half the time anymore.
Okay.
Sorry,
guys.
Sorry.
It was like flipping through somewhere. It was terrible. Anyway.
We're trying. Metal. This is also from Strangers, and this is a super cool book. Honestly, like, I love this book so much. It's, I can't wait to open it and show you. Cool art, cool story. It's all about these two guys who are robbing a bunch of places on a street in the suburbs, and one of them's like, we shouldn't go in that house because I think that this house is haunted. And he's like, there's no such thing as haunted houses. And so the one guy goes in, and it is, in fact, like, haunted by all these different spirits. And they're like, somebody else has broken into the house. Like, what should we do? And it's kind of like you see all these spirits going through, and the guy keeps getting trapped in these different places, and all the stuff that the spirits are putting him through as he tests his metal, if you would. But it is such a cool looking book. And again, one of those where you're just like pouring through the pictures, trying to see like everything that's going on, because there's so much going on in the artwork. But yeah, it's got a cool cast of characters, some really creepy ghosts, some really cool ghosts, some really just like want to be left alone spirits, and a guy who realizes maybe he made the wrong choice, and meddling in things that weren't about him. And that's one shot. Like, you know, it's obviously not going to keep going. All right. And then we've got Crocodile Black #1 from Boom Studios. This one's the last one before the picks of the week, because I have gone back and forth on this a couple times today. It's such a cool book, but I love the way the back cover, like, I almost changed my mind just looking at the back cover, because there's like this, I'm going to turn it around, like there's like the crocodile head, but the longer you stare at it, the more the scales of like the reptilian scales will actually show up. And it's not foiled, but it's just cool, because I was like staring at it while I was talking to you. Yeah, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. This is about a teenage boy who has, he has his own like obsessive disorder that he can't get through. He's just got so many problems with just being obsessed with everything, and so because of that, his therapist has put him on like certain times, like he can't have like too much time on his cell phone, he can't have too much time where he does any one thing. He's supposed to draw, but he's not supposed to draw certain things, and he has these visions that he sees. And because of all of this, he has a very tumultuous relationship with his family. His mom is trying to essentially coddle the situation a little too much, and his sister's trying to like build a friendship with him. I don't want to spoil that. And his dad is just absolutely awful to him. And there's something about like their family that has happened that he is kind of taken the blame for. And at the same time, we are seeing a case of some murders happening in the area, and no idea like who is doing them and what their connections are. But you start to put some of those pieces together by the end. This is so well done. It's Philip Kennedy Johnson, who, if you're a Superman fan, you know he just did a bunch of the Superman stories. But he's telling such a cool story, and I think that this is going to be one of those books to watch for sure. If you didn't grab Crocodile Black this week, and you like murder mysteries, and you like characters who have a lot of flaws and all the things that they're burning into, this is going to be a good one for you. All right, we've got 2 picks of the week. Up first, we've got Mugshots from Mad Cave. This is issue 1 of a new series, and I feel like this book kind of fills the hole that Newburn ending left in your soul. If you were a Newburn fan, which I know a lot of you were. But this is all about a guy who is known for his... He's like the closer, the cleaner, the kind of guy that you send in to fight the hitman almost, that you send in to clean up all the messes and destroy all the people that you're don't want to know that you're involved with the mob and things like that. And he's not favorable to a lot of people, but his sister and her husband who he hates, call him one day because their teenage daughter has gone missing, and the police aren't doing anything about it. And the reason why is because they think she might have been connected with one of the mob families because of who she was dating. And so they're like, nobody is looking into it, because they're like, if she went missing and she was dating somebody in the mob, then she must have been involved in the mob, and we're not going to get involved in that. And you're the only one who can take on these people and who can put it all together for us and actually find our daughter. And so he has to return home to do this investigation and try to find his teenage niece. And we've already built so much in the characters for this story. I feel like I've been reading about this guy forever. I feel like I know so much of all the adventures he's gone on in the past. We meet some of his old allies and some of his new ones. We meet the sister and her alcoholic husband. We meet the boyfriend and his mobster dad, and you learn so much about them and all of the struggles that they're going through right now, and how the mobsters are feeling like unfooted and how it's messing with what their heads are going on. And we get to hear one voicemail, and it's the only thing we hear from the girl that went missing. We catch a voicemail on the guy's answering machine, and it kind of gives us the inclination that there might be more going on, like with her situation and why she was involved in all this, than you would have put together in the very beginning. I'm really excited to see where this goes. This has so much built into it already. If you're into detective stories, you're into crime stories, you're into just those like family dynamics, this is definitely going to be another good one for you to pick up. And then lastly, I said it when it came out, and I wasn't kidding, but Ain't No Grave #1 from Image Comics is of course going to make my picks of the week, because it is the same exact creative team that did Middle West. It is Scotty Young on writing, Jorge Corona on art, which is also your team behind The Me You Love in the Dark, and of course John Francis Bellew on colors, because and Nate Picos. That's the team. That's the team that Scotty loves to work with. And this is about a woman in like an Old West kind of time period. And she's like the big bandit. She's this woman who's known as like the person that like steals everybody's stuff and goes around and, you know, kills all the people. She is the rough and tumble bandit, except one day she fell in love with a man, and he convinced her to settle down, and she got pregnant, and she had a daughter, and everything seemed like it was going perfectly well and wonderful in her life. And then one day she starts coughing, and the cough contains blood. And of course, in the Old West, we know that this is probably a tuberculosis kind of situation, and she is determined to not let her not die. She's like, I don't want to die. I'm not leaving my family. Nothing is going to take me away from you. So I'm going to go on this adventure right now to figure out how to stop death. And I'm going to battle at every capacity and every turn that I can, and figure out just how to stop that. And I love this panel where it like has her like in cutting all the different pieces. But this is such a good book, a great story, fantastic art. So, and coloring, and Scotty Young's going to tell us a great story that's going to be super emotional that you're going to cry about by the end. And this is it. Check it out. This is issue 1. Grab it today. Ain't No Grave. I'm going to talk about it probably every time it comes out, because I love that team. All right, we got some other books in stock that I'm going to blow through really fast. We have Valentine Blues Massacre, or Valentine Bluffs Massacre issue 2 from American Mythology. We have the second print of X-Men 97, the comic, not the show. Suicide Squad, Kill Arkham, #4. This is polybagged because it does come with a code for the game if you're playing that game. Edge of Spider-Verse issue 2 special second print. We've got Shazam issue 11 from DC Comics. We've got reprints, second prints of both Red Coat and Rook from Ghost Machine. There was also a second print of Geiger out this week, but I think, I do still have it. So if you didn't get those first rounds of all the Ghost Machine titles, they are in second print now, and you can grab them. Red Sonja, Empire of the Damned, issue 2 from Dynamite. Rat City, issue 1, also with the second print for all you Spawn fans who need that. Jim Henson's Labyrinth, Archive Edition. We've got issue 2 of 3 for all of my Labyrinth fans. We've got Batman, issue 147, and I'm really excited for this one. We got Boy Wonder, issue 1, which is Junie Baugh doing a Damian Wayne story, and I love Junie's art, so I just have to, I think it's going to be such a cool story, and I love the way he puts, the way he builds characters, especially young characters dealing with older issues. Birds of Prey, issue 9, as well as Captain America, issue 9, and Daredevil, issue 9. It is the week of issue 9 for the big 2. Deadpool issue 2. I know you're all in love with Deadpool right now and ready for all things Deadpool later on this year, so get that book and catch up on what he's up to in the comics. We have Fantastic Four issue 20. I always get excited to say this. We have Poison Ivy issue 22. I love that this G. Willow Wilson Poison Ivy is still going. We've got Scorched issue 29. We've got Amazing Spider-Man issue 49 and Shadow of the Green Goblin Spider-Man issue 2. So you got 2 Spidey books this week. We've got Star Wars High Republic issue 7, Kneel Before Zod issue 5, X-Men Forever issue 3, The X-Men Are Fallen. It is coming close to the end before that new X-Men title is going to launch. We got our Giant Size X-Men one-shot. We've been doing Giant Size one-shots again for the year, and we are on X-Men right now this week. And then trade paperbacks in stock. We had the Saturday Morning Adventures Ninja Turtles Volume 2 come out. We've got Tear Us Apart. This is the whole story. This was the story written by Jay Baruchel, who you know from How to Train Your Dragon or all things Seth Rogen movie. And this was such a cool story. It's like Romeo and Juliet in a post-apocalyptic world. I love it so much. Sirens of the City, whole story as well. This is issues 1 through 6. If they want to come back to this world, I know a lot of people would be really excited to see that. Captain Marvel, this is volume 1 of the newest Captain Marvel story that has been just growing with fans. So many more people are coming in each week to add that to their list. Daredevil Black Armor. This was the little mini series 1 through 4 that happened of Daredevil just recently. If you didn't catch it in single issues, you can catch it in trade. Transformers Volume 1. This is 1 through 6 of that new Energon Universe Transformers from Daniel Warren Johnson. And then we have The Singularity, which is a new graphic novel from Bear McCreary, and who is, the music composer. And I think it's really cool to see. We had so many different musicians writing comics and stuff, so it's cool to see a music composer doing that. And if music composers are writing comics, Trent Reznor, make a comic so Matt can get it graded and hang it on next to his bedside table. And then we have The Jellyfish, and I am so excited to read this. I haven't read it yet, but this is about a 20-something-year-old who has everything going like exactly where they want it in life, and then they start having this jellyfish that kind of obstructs their vision and kind of ruins everything. But I'm really excited to see, because obviously this is an analogy for all things that kind of overwhelm us in our lives, and it's going to be really beautiful and amazing, and I can't wait to read about the toxicity that overwhelms us. And speaking of things to read, this Wednesday, don't forget, is our Fresh Start Book Club, where we read issue 1 of a news story. And so we've got issue 1 of Helen of Windhorn is what you're reading this week. If you haven't read it yet, grab it on Wednesday, read it. If you haven't, if you don't have time to read it, but you still want to come, cool, it's free to join. So come join us and hear us talk about it and get excited for it. It is only on issue 2, so it's a great time to actually jump in yourself, even if you haven't joined the book club. And then don't forget, for kids this weekend, we've got comic creation workshops for all of our beginners who want to learn how to just write their stories and draw their stories and have some fun at 11:30 a.m. this Saturday, May 18th. And then at 3:30 p.m., we have our first class for Slam Academy. Check it out. Go to our website, badcity.org, and find out all the information there, or come to our Facebook page and check out all of the events for Slam Academy for the entire 11-week course. You can do one class if only one of them sounds interesting, or you can do the whole summer. So check them out. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. That's what we got going on. It's going to be a great week, as always, at Bat City. don't forget to grab the Wedge and check out this Cab Sav full of raspberries, blueberries, and enjoy your ride. And happy reading, everyone.